How are we today, Rhys and Scott? It's a pleasure to meet you both.
Oh, it's really nice
Oh,
meeting
so
you
nice to meet you
too.
too.
So you guys must be still pinching yourselves. I mean, you've not only got a sequel, you've got a universe that's unfolding.
So yeah, we're really really happy about it. It's like following the success of like the first film, which we didn't really have much money for. It but it was a big commercial success, and now that's all kind of getting reinvested into building out this next set of films. So we finished Winnie 2. We've been getting really good comments so far from everyone who's seen it, and we kind of absolutely consumed with the next batch of films. Because there's so many coming up. Like we've shot Bambi recently, that was like January. Peter Pan, Scott's directing, that's like next month. And then we're going into Pinocchio after that. So we're steamrolling a bit.
Was there ever a thought that this would be the case? I mean, I'm sure that was the hope.
Well, we there was a big discussion with like the execs and everywhere else and everyone else involved in this because there was, to be honest, there was like two completely different camps about how we approach this. Some people were like, what you did before was perfect, as in you made it on basically nothing, and look at the money you've made. So they were just like, do it again and do it again and do it again. But we countered that a bit, and we would say, look, we need more money. Like it's so hard to make a film, let alone on that money. And what you're going to do is you're going to kill out this potential. There's something special here, and the only way this is going to retain and go forwards, and people are going to really enjoy them, is if the budget's going up and we're able to improve the quality of the films, and then hopefully people like them, and then we can keep that going. And we kind of won them around, so we're hoping our strategy has is going to pay off.
So far, so good. Fingers crossed we keep it going. So, Scott, you're a producer and actor in this film. How was it wearing both hats? Because the way I imagined it, it was like, okay, hey, Scott, here's a whole list of problems with the budget. Can you go cry now
Yeah, pretty much.
on camera?
You have
Thanks.
summed up producing pretty well. And because I actually didn't realize that acting for me just clicked there. But yeah, that is producing though. It's like issue, you just cry in a corner on your own. But yeah, no, it was kind of like that was a big thing that I was nervous about doing the role of Christopher because yeah, I've produced quite a lot of stuff and I don't act in it, and that's always because you end up just wearing so many hats. It's like if someone pulls out the night before, if someone's just not pulling their weight, you just have to figure out the job and you just have to do it yourself. So it was a bit intimidating to then do the acting because obviously acting wise, I've been doing that for a while now, and I'm quite proud of everything I've been in and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want to do something where I felt like my acting was getting like, there was no time for me to do it properly. But obviously, like I trust Rhys and I believed in Rhys and all that kind of stuff. So then when I signed up to it, it was all headed in the right direction. And then 3 days before the shoot starts, we get this call from the production designer forward slash costume designer, and he basically pulled out the project. And then when you start to look into how much work he'd done, you realize not much had been done at all. So Rhys is having a panic attack. I'm meant to be like sorting out Christopher Robin because up until this point I've been doing my producing. Now I'm meant to be focusing on my character, and I found myself in a cafe all night ordering these bondage rave outfits for about 60 different actors and just understanding different body types. For guys, you really can get a small, medium, large, but with a girl, you can't. And yeah, so I did that. And then my first day of playing Christopher Robin, I was so sick, as in like not from flu, but from stress. And I
Hmm.
remember we were filming the therapy scenes, and that was my first scene. And I just kept falling asleep on the chair, and I kept saying to the lady playing the therapist, she's called Teresa, and I kept going like, "I'm so sorry, I feel so rough," and I just kept falling asleep on the chair in between takes. But she was so nice, so she didn't care.
She would have thought to herself, wow, he's really,
Yeah,
really into the exhaustion of the character.
yeah. I know. You know what? I
Yeah,
should I should have blagged that. I should have gone. I'm really method acting
your
here, so I'm
method.
trying to be
Yeah.
really down and out, and I've been through a hard time. I'm just gonna go to sleep, but no.
Looking at the jump up in budget from the first film, how was that experience? I mean, everyone would always assume it's just going to be a plus plus. You've got more money. But as we know, more money doesn't exactly mean a smooth sailing. So how was that experience?
We could have taken it easy, like in terms of like we've got more money, so let's keep it really contained. Let's just have loads and loads of days. and make it a really chill shoot. But yeah, I kind of didn't want to do that. I wanted the film, as the budget went up, my ideas and the scope I wanted to take it just started broadening more and more. So it was still incredibly intense, probably actually more intense than the first film. Everyone involved, like the crew, all of the cast and all that, like no one was moaning. Everyone was like really pulling away, like and stepping up to, because I was pushing the envelope a lot. I was getting people to do longer hours than your typical like 10, 11 or 12 hours, but they were like really invested in the film and they wanted it to be really good. But we've got some crazy set pieces in this. Like we've got stuff which I genuinely think a studio film of 5 million plus wouldn't want to tackle, like a rave scene with like 70 people dying. We've got this caravan getting completely burnt down with these girls having their arms snapped and pretty like horrible, brutal stuff.
Were there any sequences for you both that you thought, this is going to be an easy one, let's just get this one in the can, and it ended up being just a complete nightmare to make? And the other way around, any scenes that you thought this is going to be really difficult and it ended up being quite easy?
I would probably say for me, there's a scene where there's a chainsaw on fire, and it all sounded cool in the script. It was like, oh yeah, cool. Like, so Winnie's got a chainsaw, it's on fire, he's chasing me with it. There's a cool rain machine, and then you do it, and it's like it's bloody awful. Like, that rain machine is essentially it's plugged into a hose, and that hose from, I think we were filming 4 p.m. until 4 a.m. is just pissing out freezing cold water. And my costumes, I had 3 duplicates of my costumes. We got through all 3 and they were just soaked. And I was wearing this denim jacket, it was so heavy, and I was like, oh, I felt so gross, and it was just so horrible. And it just dragged. Like, we were in this there was a bit where I was in the car, and I've never actually been that scared on set, but because it's my production company, what can I do? I just have to get on with it. So I was in the car, and the chainsaw, it comes through the first time like there.
You were actually in front of
Yeah.
it? I
Yeah,
thought
it's
that you
practical.
guys
Yeah.
had stitched that together or something.
No,
No,
that's all
no.
practical and all in the same scene.
Yeah. No, I was
Awesome.
legitimately that close to a chainsaw. And the thing is, people behind the camera, they weren't spotting it because it was just me and the guy playing Pooh. So it was like 1 minute it'd be there, and the next minute it'd be there. So like it was just sometimes it would change in terms of how close it was to me. And then the camera crew would be like, Scott, can you get closer to it? I'm like, no, because it was literally there a moment ago. So I was actually crapping myself. And I remember before we did it, I turned to the cinematographer and I just went, I actually feel like I could get killed. But like, again, what can I do? It's my company. So it's like I can't sue myself. So I would say that bit was probably, it ended up being like the most depressing day for me, because it was freezing, it was long, I was covered in crap like blood and stuff, and then just having a chainsaw nearly stabbed me.
Well, as an actor, you'd be looking for a shortcut so that, because you're also a producer, so you're like, well, how about we actually
Uh-huh.
just get me really scared for my life?
Yeah, no, it worked. Literally, it was like when you're like finding a substitute for your acting, it's just like just react. It was like that chainsaw may hit me. How do I react?
And how about the other way around? Was there a scene that you thought this is going to be so difficult and you're like, wow, we smashed that. That's awesome.
I think the rave, like as in terms of when everyone was in that room, I like when you deal with extras and stuff, it can be a nightmare and they don't listen and stuff. And obviously most of my period when we were there, I was producing it, I wasn't acting in it. So I'm not really in those scenes. And I thought, oh God, like Rhys is gonna really need all the help he can get. But no, like I feel like everyone really listened, everyone was really game. And it was just flew past, and like every shot was so stunning, and we were just so happy with it. So I think that was like a surprise.
One of the scenes I thought was going to be easy, and it's turned out incredibly hard, was the ending pickups. So we had to get some pickups at the end of the film.
Yeah.
And we moved the dates into like December or January to do them. And honestly, like the weekend we had this scheduled, the temperature dropped. It became like the coldest weekend of the year, and everyone was like absolutely shivering. If you watch the end of the film, you can see people just look like they've got no blood in their face because they're so cold. Like they're sitting on the ground shaking, like trying to act under the conditions. And it was meant to be super simple because it was just like, we just need like these like 5 I don't know, these like 6 or 7 shots. This is going to happen. It's all in one area. That was a bloody nightmare that to get done. And scenes which I thought were going to be hard, but they turned out easier than I imagined was maybe some of the caravan stuff, like the girls at the start of the film, because there was a moment which was stressful, and that was that the caravan went on fire, and I didn't realize when caravans go on fire, they go really quick. Like in when you won, we had a car, and this car it burned like it was able to burn for about 6 or 7 hours. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to get the same amount of time with this caravan. They lit the caravan light, this fire engine standing by. 2 minutes passes and they go, it's done. Like it's all gone, and they're like spraying it with water. And I was like, oh, that's my scene. It just disappeared. So we then had to like work around it, and then it became easier after working around it because I just didn't have to contend with the fire, and I thought I was going to have to. I was thinking, okay, I've got the opportunity to get all of these shots, and it was just like 2 minutes gone. And it's okay, like now we can move on.
And
So
how much
that
it
became a
cost
lot
as
of-
well. Crazy.
Is that must be kind of frustrating having more money, but having more responsibility at the same time. So it's like every 5 minutes, you're like, how much did that cost?
Yeah, yeah. A
Exactly,
big thing
yeah.
is as well, you know, like with it's like because it's a higher budget, if you go over on certain things, you really go over and you feel the price. Whereas on my low budget stuff, it's like because everything's so cheap, you know, like you know, it's like, oh, it's gone over by like a couple of grand. Whereas on this, it's always like another 10. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it means it's going to have to come off something else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. You're always trying to find like it's like, okay, cool. So that's gonna cost that. So where am I gonna take that from? It's like someone's gonna suffer because that now needs to get billed. And
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, no one wants to put more money into the film. So they're like, you've got to figure it out. So yeah.
I'm interested now that we're on the sequel and it's a more of it's a higher budget, higher quality. How do you both look back at the first film? I mean, I know that the critical reception and audience scores weren't exactly crash hot, but then again, the film did really well financially and it's greenlit this one. So how do you look back at that now?
The first film is a bit hard because I when I made it, it was initially intended for a VOD DVD market. I had basically no resources. I made certain decisions because I had no resources there just to try, because as a director, I'm just trying to make the best film I can for whatever my limitations are and the money. So I made a bunch of decisions there to make it go down a bit of a campier, sillier route, just have fun with it. And then a lot of people ended up seeing it, and that some people don't like that kind of campy and sillier route. So I made a lot of changes going into the sequel because the budget's gone up. So I don't look back at the first film in a not in a negative way, because obviously it got me to where I am now, but I knew it wasn't the direction to take the franchise forward, and there was a lot of changes which were needed in order to make this successful and take this into a direction which it needed to be taken. Hence why we made the first film a film within the second film, in order to essentially wipe the slate a bit clean and to rejig and change a lot, able to change the creatures, make them look more menacing and more scary, like with Winnie the Pooh, we're putting prosthetics on him because now we have more money, to ensure we have really good performances in there. Hence why we're getting like Scott involved with it, and like Simon Callow. Make sure there's a really solid like story overall. Hence why I was able to get like Matt Leslie involved to kind of work with me and kind of like co-write it. So what I'm hoping is everyone's going to see the second, see everything stepped up massively. We've been getting really good responses so far from everyone who's critically seen the second, which is really, obviously that's a huge contrast to to what happened in the first film, because I got slated there. But ultimately, that film was it went well beyond its scale at that point, and that's got us where we needed to be. So I've just kind of put that aside, and now I'll see how people feel about the second and hopefully third.
For me, I you know, like when people go, oh, have you learned loads of lessons from the first one and stuff? It's like, no, because it was made in 6 days. It was made in 6 days with like a handful of people and a camera, and we had £20,000. So, and that year we made 46 feature films. Like yeah, literally, and they all got distributed worldwide. I also acted in a film called Dr. Jekyll and a TV show that year. So it was a crazy
I
year.
can't
It's
even
like,
imagine how stressful making 46,
yeah,
making one
yeah,
is just like, wow, you made one movie? That's crazy. You're
yeah,
like, yeah, we made 46. And
yeah.
one of
No,
them happens to
46.
be this Winnie the
Yeah.
Pooh one that's everywhere.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like that was it was honestly it was on a conveyor belt. I was trying to make 100 films. I'd already done a load, and I wanted to make 100 because I wanted to like make my mark in the industry. And if I got the chance to meet people who could give me some money, I wanted to be like the Terminator producer. It's like if you give him some money, he'll know how to use it because he's only made films on under 50 grand. But Winnie was just honestly on this conveyor belt for me, and also had my acting that I was doing and stuff as well. And then it blew up, and I was like, oh, fuck, people are going to see that one. And obviously, if I could, I would have probably, like, we would have probably just binned what we did and we would have quickly made a new film. But everything was moving so quick, and it was like, oh, it went viral, but is this going to carry on? Oh, I don't know. And then we did some little bit of reshoots, and then, oh, it went viral again with the trailer. But it isn't like like honestly, I don't feel like Rhys did a bad job. It was just like Rhys did about he back to back directed 6 films. Like 2 weeks after Winnie won, he was directing a dinosaur film. 2 weeks before that, he directed a Christmas Killer Tree film, and Winnie 2 is
Is
what he would have done if he had some time.
the positions we're in at the time, you have differing resources, different time, and you make the best decisions at that time on what you think is right. If I had 3 years to plan the first film, I would have made a much different film probably. And I've had more time and more resources to make the sequel. So I'm hoping people can see that and they like it. And if they do like it, then hopefully the same will happen again with number 3, and we can go even bigger and better.
Yeah, that's great. I love the ambition that you guys have, and I love that this universe is actually going to start unfolding now. What can you tell us and tease us about where we're going?
So next up,
So
we've got Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. So we shoot that next, and I'm directing. And actually, there's a film from Australia that I'm obsessed with called Hounds of Love. And that's actually weirdly a reference for Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. That I'd say that film, a film called Switchblade Romance, which is also called High Tension in other territories, and The Black Phone. It's a merge of those 3 films. Um, Tinkerbell, the Hounds of Love film, it really is a reference because Peter Pan has Tinkerbell in a situation where is very much like she's trapped and she's deluded, she's been brainwashed into doing what he wants. So it's and I really get excited as a director by characters. So there's going to be some really good tense fun with them too. But it was the easiest one to make into horror because it's like, a man creeps into children's bedrooms and says, I'm going to take you to Neverland. It's pretty creepy. So, yeah, it's going to be wild. Tinkerbell uses heroin and she thinks it's pixie dust. So it's going to be madness. So, yeah, we've got that. Then Pinocchio we're developing at the moment. And then obviously the Pooniverse. We've known we were going to do this for probably about a year now. And all these films that we're doing, they're introductions to these characters. But we always had the Pooniverse in mind. So we're introducing the right characters because there's going to be some in the Pooniverse that haven't had their own films yet, but you'll know why we've done this when we get to it. We have to introduce them. They're going to have loads of Easter eggs, and then the Pooniverse is going to be mad because we want some of them to not see eye to eye. I want to see some versing going on, and then other than that, you know, monsters assemble and let's take out everyone. They have massive slaughters.
No, that's great. Well, look, it's been such a pleasure talking to you both today. Congratulations again
Oh,
on the first film success and now getting the sequel off the ground. Looking forward to seeing this Pooniverse unfold. Thanks so much, guys.
oh,
thanks so
thank
much for
you.
your time. Thank you.
Thanks so much.